So today's webinar, as I mentioned, is a topic that comes up quite often in client services. The question that I get asked a lot from family and friends, you know, is how do you convince someone to get their hearing checked? So that is really, really difficult. Sometimes it can be, and it can be quite frustrating when we know that they can benefit from treatment such as hearing aids or cochlear implants or some other communication strategies. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, but first, before we get into all of that, we'll need to talk about some statistics of hearing loss. So these statistics on the slide, it says 54% of Canadians between the ages of 40 to 79 have at least a mild hearing loss. So that's basically 1 in 5 Canadians with hearing loss. It's very surprising that, Statistics Canada, and that's where these numbers come from, is they discovered that 77% were not even aware they had a hearing problem. So we see that quite often is that people do not realize that they even have a difficulty with hearing because hearing loss oftentimes is so gradual and you really don't know what you're missing because you get used to it over time of, the sounds that you're not hearing. So, for example, common sounds in the home, such as refrigerator humming, those sounds, or birds chirping, for example, after a while, they don't hear them, but they don't notice it because it's just so gradual. The study also revealed that people wait on average 7 years after being diagnosed with hearing loss to do anything about it. Why is that? Why does it take them, after they've been diagnosed with hearing loss, why does it take them 7 years to get treatment or to do anything about it?
Um, the first person said embarrassment, affordability, money and cost, anxiety, and slow progression. So somebody may not realize that they have hearing.
Yeah, exactly. Great. That's excellent. So, exactly. So my next slide lists some of those, and we can add in some of you know, what you came up with, all valid answers. So, like you said, it could be the perceived costs. It could be that, they feel the hearing aids, and I'm speaking about hearing aids or cochlear implants or implantable devices. It may be too visible, so other people will see it. Other health concerns take priority. I hear that a lot. So someone who has a lot of health issues happening in their time of life, they may put off getting hearing loss treatment because they're focused on the other health concerns, or they want to get the other health concern resolved first before they can address the hearing loss. Sometimes it might be uncomfortable to use. I've heard people say that. They don't feel it's important. Also denial that their hearing loss has changed as well. And, anxiety and all those things that come with it as well. So this is a client of ours, Jim. So Jim shared his frustrations with us. So this is what he had said when he came in. So he said, hearing loss isolated me socially. My family was irritated at always having to repeat themselves and was frustrated with them for leaving me out of conversations or talking to me from another room. and expecting me to understand. So, Jim shared his frustrations. So I asked Jim if he feels he is doing everything he can when communicating with his family. He responded that they should know how to talk to me. So that's a common response that I do get from clients. I explained to Jim that communication is a two-way street. Hearing loss is a break in communication, and it needs to be repaired with different strategies, such as reminding family to get your attention first before speaking, or use technology to help. Such as, hearing aids. When you show that you are doing your best, this is what I said to Jim. When you show you are doing your best, the less frustrated they will be. So, if you show them that you're doing everything you can to help with the situation, they will help you and better support you and be less frustrated. So for this presentation, I will be talking more about hearing aids as a treatment option because it is the most common, but there are other treatments for hearing loss. A hearing healthcare professional can identify the best treatments for an individual. In the meantime, as someone supporting a person with hearing loss, what can you do to help them consider those treatment options? The very first thing that I think many people do not take the time to do is having a calm one-on-one conversation with the person who is not hearing well. For this conversation to go smoothly, it needs to be in a safe and comfortable space away from other distractions. Explain your concerns, ask questions, listen to their worries and feelings without judgment. Work with them to identify what is holding them back, such as the cost, stigma, etc. You could also share personal experiences of others who have been successful with hearing aids or other types of treatments for hearing loss. In Newfoundland and Labrador, everyone knows someone who has gone through hearing loss or who has been struggling. Um, a lot of times word travels by word of mouth, basically. So we hear from other people and we listen to what other people say. Their success stories, and sometimes those success stories are not always negative. So make sure that, you find those success stories that are very positive. An example of what you could say during this conversation is, I am concerned that our communication is not what it used to be, and I miss that closeness. You may not be aware of what you are missing, but I am noticing the difference. Would you be willing to get it checked out? Instead of yelling, you are deaf, go get your hearing checked. So instead of constantly saying, go get your hearing checked and yelling at them, be patient. Be patient with them and just don't give up. Continuously express your concern that the communication has changed and you want to make it better. You want to help. And note that, pressuring someone is not okay. They need to be ready. Ultimately, the decision is theirs. However, there are things that you can do to help them with the decision. The most important thing you can do is learn and understand hearing loss. What is hearing loss? So it's important to know about the risk factors and to inform them about untreated hearing loss. There are significant risks that could impact their life, and not just the difficulty in communicating with others. So it's not just about communication, there's other risks involved as well. These risks have been shown in studies that there's a correlation between untreated hearing loss and isolation, which can lead to depression, cognitive decline, hypertension, diabetes. A part of learning about hearing loss is also about understanding what it sounds like. What is it that they hear? You know that they can hear some things, and at certain times they can hear. So it's oftentimes you're not sure. How come they can hear me today and they couldn't hear me yesterday? You know, what happened? So what I have for you today is I'm going to play a recording, and that will help you with understanding, a bit about what they actually hear.
Number 1, fill. Number 2, catch. Number 3, thumb. Number 4, heat. Number 5, rise. Number 6, wedge. Number 7, fish. Number 8, shows. Number 9, bed. Number 10, juice.
So I know it did play pretty fast. If you did have the time to write them down, I should have reminded you. But basically, it's going to give you an idea of what it is that they hear. So I know that you probably heard some static, but that's just the quality of the recording. So I'll show you the correct words that were actually said. A lot of people are very surprised when they see these list of words that that they didn't hear it. So it's not to test your hearing; it's just to demonstrate what they hear. So this is someone with, a mild high frequency loss. So you can imagine someone with a more severe loss, they would hear even less than that. So for example, catch. Sometimes people might hear cat instead of the catch, the CH at the end. So they're missing parts of the words, basically, is what hearing loss is about. And this here is a visual representation of what hearing loss could look like as well. It's important to understand that hearing loss is not the same for everyone. What people hear depends on the type of hearing loss they have. Is it conductive, central neural, their hearing level, is it mild, moderate, severe, the environment, is there lots of windows in the space or hard surfaces causing reverberation or echo? Background noise is very difficult for anyone to understand what is being said, but especially for those with hearing loss, it's even more challenging. And how far away someone is. So talking while walking away does not help. Talking to someone in a different room, it just does not work. When someone is, their personality, their mood and attitudes, I can only speak for myself in terms of fatigue. I know fatigue is very difficult for me. If I'm tired, it affects how well I can hear someone. So fatigue affects, it requires concentration. So that's going to affect the ability on how well someone hears. So thinking about the audio you just heard, if someone was hearing like that, what would you do to improve communication with them?
So we had write it down. So write down what you are saying. Get the person's attention before talking to them. Get their attention, advise them to look at Read Our Lips. So Read Our Lips is a speech reading program that we have developed. Get their attention and face them. And then some people have said ASL.
So yes, thank you for sharing that. So a lot of what you had said, those communication strategies are listed on my slide here. So, I encourage people that once you have become more educated on hearing loss, share those communication strategies with the person that is struggling with hearing loss. And, it's really important, what you think is going to work for a person. Maybe they don't want that, or maybe that wouldn't work for them. So everyone's communication strategy is going to be different. So make sure that you work a communication method early on with them that's going to work for the both of you. So these tips are general communication tips. So I always say, to people, how do they know that someone has hearing loss? So if there's a professional that's doing, say, customer service, how do they know that someone's going to have hearing loss? So I always say, assume that everyone has hearing loss. So that means, use good communication with everyone. So it's about, getting their attention. So you want to get the attention of the person. So walking away while talking from another room does not benefit anyone. Or looking away, for example, or your face is behind a computer monitor, those kinds of things. So people really need to see your face to see what you're saying because they are lip reading, whether or not they realized it. So they're getting visual cues from your face and your lips and your expressions and everything. Some clients have told me that other people are frustrated with being asked to remove their hand from their mouth. And I'd like to say that please know that it's not easy for people to self-advocate. And if they ask you to remove your hand or to face them, instead of being negative about it, thank them for reminding you. It goes a long way, and it encourages them to speak up more. Because, as somebody mentioned earlier, for some people, it is quite embarrassing when they can't hear well. So it's embarrassing when they miss the punchline of a joke, or, or they say the wrong thing, for example. Also, number 3, so reduce or eliminate background noise. So that could be, move to another place or turn the TV down, if you're having a conversation. Shouting shows frustration on your face, and it embarrasses them as well. So, when you're shouting, they know that you're shouting because your face changes and it distorts the words on your lips as well. So they're not able to lip read you as well. Explore speech to text apps for cell phones and tablets. So there's different speech to text apps. So when you're talking, the speech, what you're saying, comes up on the screen and they can read it. So it's really helpful, especially if someone's going to a doctor's appointment, for example, or just, having a general conversation, or you're out for coffee or something like that. So it's very helpful. New technology is amazing. The person may also have technology, already have technology. Maybe they have clip-on microphones or other listening device. So, if they ask you to use it, please use it. That enhances what you're able to hear. number 7, the very last one, is include the person in your conversation. Speak directly to them. So this is a common experience for a lot of people. So what I mean by that is include them in conversations, especially when the conversation is about them, such as their health. So you may be with them, with their doctor. So it's important that they're included in that conversation because they actually do hear bits and pieces. So if you think about the audio that you listen to, you are able to hear some of it. So they might hear their name, for example, or some of what is being said. So they're aware of what you're talking about. And in other situations, maybe it's just a conversation happening at home around a dinner table. They might think that you're actually talking about them. So when maybe you're not, but they're hearing bits and pieces of it, and then it could, make them paranoid and them thinking that, people are talking about them all the time because they don't know exactly everything that's being said. So technology is big. So with people with hearing loss, technology is everything. So when someone doesn't hear well, they have some hearing. They're not completely deaf. They have some hearing. So they, the hope is to amplify or use that residual hearing as best as can be. So it's also important to realize that hearing aids do not fix hearing. So, and sometimes that is really, really frustrating for family members because, okay, they got their hearing aids, they should be able to hear perfect now. But no, hearing aids is an aid. And it's the same thing with cochlear implant. It's an aid. It's not a fix. So, sometimes people are disappointment. They have a sense of disappointment when the person is not hearing as well as they thought they would. So that's when other technology comes into play that can also go with the hearing aids or cochlear implant or implantable devices. So, and it's important to respect their communication method and provide, constructive feedback. So whatever they choose to use, provide constructive feedback on how it can be improved or make suggestions for other technology. So, personal listening devices such as a pocket talker, for example, and we can provide more information about this, on our website or contact our office. We have a lending program that people can borrow devices, which is free of charge. So we're a provincial organization, and so, people can borrow technology. We mail it to them and they can try it out, and that's free of charge. They just have to return it. That's all. So, Pocket Talker is a very popular device that we have. It's an amplifier and it improves communication one-on-one and also when watching the television. We also have amplified telephones and inline amplifiers. They improve the level, the speech clarity as well, which is really important. There's also video communication apps as well. So if you have an iPad, then FaceTime, for example, and now you can get captions on FaceTime. So, you could have video conversations if, the telephone is such a struggle for them. And telephones are difficult because they can't see your face. So they can't lip read. So, and again, speech to text apps as well, as I've already described, is very helpful as well. if cost is holding someone back from seeking treatment, there are funding options available in our province. So if you would like to learn more about eligibility, you can contact our office. So, the provincial hearing aid program is a very common program, very popular program that we get called a lot about. It's a little bit difficult to navigate, so the provincial government provides that funding for hearing aids. So, you can certainly give our office a call and we can help you go through that process. And there's other funding sources as well, such as private health insurance, if you have it, Workplace NL, Health Canada, benefits, Veterans Affairs. So there's a few options there to help with that. So I'm going to talk about some other tips, tricks that you can do to help support someone. So, educating them about maintaining their hearing health. So that's really important. So maintaining hearing health includes having ears checked for wax by a family doctor or nurse practitioner. Wax really does impact how well someone hears. So being on top of that is really important. Referrals may be required to the ears, nose, and throat specialist as well. Regular hearing screenings are very important. So in our Mount Pearl office, we offer complimentary hearing screenings by appointment every Tuesday. This appointment includes information about hearing loss and referrals for complete hearing evaluations. We also conduct screenings on our outreach trips across the province, usually once or twice a year. There are also several private hearing care professionals who travel in rural Newfoundland and Labrador, and they conduct hearing screenings too. So you can contact our office again for more information for a listing of those clinics. Social connections and resources. So communication is what helps someone be sociable, really. So being sociable is not always about, going out to a dance or going to bingo hall or a card game. It could be, just having a few friends over. It's about connecting with others. Hearing loss impacts communication, and people tend to withdraw from social situations when it becomes too difficult to keep up with the conversation. So this is particularly true for seniors because they haven't learned the communication strategies for these types of situations. When people isolate themselves, they are at a higher risk of depression. If your friend or a family member, continues to decline social invitations, offer to join them or offer suggestions for activities to support their independence and offer reassurance as they navigate interacting with others. So it's really, really important that people continue being sociable. If they've never been a sociable person, then try to encourage that they do, or maybe it is just about, getting together with them, making sure that they are communicating. If someone has been sociable all their life and all of a sudden they no longer go out and socialize, then that's an issue that needs to be addressed. So it's, talk to them about technology, such as the pocket talker that might help in those situations. Anytime, that you are at a venue that does not have a listening devices, for example, or you think the space could be improved for someone with hearing loss, advocate for public accessibility. There's lots of options, lots of technology out there to make a space more accessible, hearing accessible. So, you can speak to the manager, at the venue and, educate them and just express your concerns, and you can have them give us a call and we can provide suggestions for improving hearing accessibility in their space. When planning social activities, consider, if you're going to have them over for coffee or for dinner, when you're planning those social activities, consider the person's needs and preferences. Lead by example. So that encourages other people to do the same. So include them in conversations, as I mentioned. It's also nice to relay important information to them. Take note of sounds in the background, such as someone, walking in or coming in the room. This encourages belonging while teaching others to do the same. There's lots of ways that you can make an activity more inclusive. Keep informed of resources in their area. So, for example, sign up for event notifications. So when we travel across the province, we promote that where we're going and when we promote it by email and Facebook. So you can sign up for our email listing. Coordinate family connections. So working together with everyone in the family, it ensures that all needs are being met. So everyone is informed of, someone is getting information about, about the pocket talker. And another family member might be responsible for picking up the pocket talker, for example. And someone else might be responsible for showing and providing instructions on how to use it. For family members who are away, this is especially important. So, because it is more challenging to communicate with the individual, because face-to-face communication is limited. So, decide on the best communication method. Maybe an amplified telephone, it could be FaceTime with captions. It's whatever works best for the both of you. Strengths. So basically, I know that it can be very frustrating talking to someone with hearing loss. I have hearing loss myself, and I've had it all my life. It's a new chapter for me, I guess, in my life. My parents are struggling with hearing loss now. They're older now, and so I see their challenges. And my dad is I think he's probably moderate to severe, would be his hearing level. So I'm working with him on or supporting him with his hearing loss. So, and I know how frustrating it can be when the TV is up really loud. So I solved that by purchasing a pocket talker. So now he does use the pocket talker, so I'm very, very proud of him for that. So there's other things that I like for him to do in terms of improving communication with him. So I will continue to work with that and breathe and accept that that's where he is right now. And redirect. So, it's really important. It's really difficult to not talk negative because people are inclined to see the negative before the positive. So it's really important to, instead of always talking about the negative of hearing loss, highlight the things that they are good at, and encourage them to keep trying. So as frustrating as it can be, remain positive, gentle reminders, maybe you should get your hearing checked. I noticed that you had a difficult time hearing when we were at dinner. What do you think could have helped in that situation? So, for example, if you notice they are good lip readers, you could say, you're a really good lip reader. You're really good at that. Maybe we can sign up for a class so I can learn too. So, if both of you learn together, it fosters that closeness as well, that you're in this together. Or you could say, good job on asking the server to slow down when they were explaining the menu. So those are little bits of encouragement that really does empower people. Encourage them to take small steps, such as becoming more educated about their hearing loss or hearing loss in general and the impacts. Ultimately, it is their decision to get treatment. Pressuring others is not okay. That could lead to resentment and them not even wearing the hearing aids if they get it. I've talked a lot about how you can support someone with hearing loss, but you also have to take care of yourself. So you have to be well to be able to support someone else. So self-care is something that comes up more and more now. So self-care is something that brings you joy. So it's something that you do as a support person to take care of yourself. So it could be gardening, which I absolutely love. It could be, you go out for coffee with a friend, or relaxation yoga, reading a book, watching a comedy show. All really, really important thing. Take care of yourself. This is another client, Patty. So she shared this with us. So this is what Patty said. Before I accepted I had hearing loss, I ignored the signs and avoided situations I found difficult, or I suffered in silence. I felt frustrated and alone. Now that I have adjusted to my hearing aids, I feel reborn. I no longer stay at home when I could be out having fun with my family and friends. So that's such a heartwarming message for all of us. What I'd like for you to take away from this, if anything, is practice good communication. So with everyone, assume that everyone has hearing loss. Encourage social connections. Encourage people to talk to other people, be sociable, be engaged with others. Keep up to date on resources and technology. So whenever a new technology comes out, we share that in our emails and our Facebook and things like that. So keep up to date on the technology. Add yourself to our list. And again, practice self-care, patience, and perseverance. Don't give up. Very, very important. So that concludes our presentation. And I'm open for questions.
Should all people with hearing loss learn sign language?
So I do get asked this question. So for myself personally, I learned sign language when I was in my 20s. And I did a couple of did a few courses actually, and it's very interesting. It's an interesting language to learn, and I absolutely loved it, loved it. The thing is, I didn't have anyone to sign to. So there wasn't anyone else in my life that knew sign language. So it didn't help me because I had no one to communicate with. So if there's people in your life that know sign language or that will learn it with you, then great, it will be helpful. But in a situation where there's no one else, really, who are you going to sign to?
And if you are interested in learning more about sign language, I know the Newfoundland and Labrador Association of the Deaf offer sign language classes.
Yep.
And that is all of the questions that we have here now.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it very much.